You may have heard the news that Mr. Elon Musk is now a trillionaire. Not to be confused with a billionaire. We're very, very used to the obscenity of billionaires to the point where we barely flinch anymore, which is bad because billionaires are also bad. But this man is a trillionaire. I can't even understand what that actually means as a number. But one thing I can say is it means that one man now holds more wealth than the bottom 46% of humanity combined. That is 3.8 billion people. One man has more wealth than 3.8 billion people. He owns more than the next 3 richest people on Earth combined. And the story we're being sold is that this is some sort of natural result of genius and grit and rockets going to space. This lone visionary who willed his way to the top and deserves every cent of it. The actual story, though, Zoe, is a little different. It involves $38 billion in taxpayer money, a government he was simultaneously in charge of gutting, food ripped out of the mouths of 40 million Americans, and now a secret society co-founded by his Silicon Valley comrade, Peter Theil, where the ultra-rich are quietly meeting to plan for World War III, and we are not making this up. Build a Cult is the name of one of the programs of this secret meeting. Joining us to make sense of this gilded nightmare is economist Dr. Richard Wolff, professor emeritus at UMass Amherst and founder of Democracy at Work. Dr. Richard Wolff, thank you so much for joining us here at BT Live.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Let's get right into it. Elon Musk's businesses received, like I mentioned, at least $38 billion in government contracts, loans, subsidies, and tax credits. And when SpaceX was nearly out of cash in 2008, Musk himself said, "We could not have started SpaceX, nor could we have reached this point without the help of NASA." And in 2018, by the way, he paid zero in federal income taxes. We all paid more than Elon Musk in 2018 in federal income taxes. So, Dr. Wolff, the propaganda says Musk earned his $1 trillion through ingenuity. How did he actually accumulate this wealth?
Well, I think the way I like to teach this, so if you bear with me for a moment, is to tell a little parable. The parable is simple and it gets at the core of why this kind of wealth is the obscenity you just described perfectly well. So here's my story. Imagine with me a little village located on the edge of a river, and that periodically, when it rains a lot, the river overflows and floods the little village, and everybody's basement gets full of water, and everybody has a pain in the neck cleaning it all up. And a few pets get drowned in the process. So the community doesn't want this to happen. So they hear a report on the radio that a bad storm is coming, and they decide this time we're going to be proactive, we're going to do something. And they agree, with the mayor helping them do it, to arrange for a truckload of sandbags to deposit those sandbags in the town square. And then everybody comes that afternoon before the rain and lines up from the dumping place where the bags are all the way to the edge of the river. One citizen after another, men, women, and at least adult children. And the first one lifts a bag in the parking lot, hands it to the next one, who hands it to the next one, all the way to the edge of the river. And the last one, let's call that person Mary, the last one puts it up against the riverbank. And so they do this all day. And by the end of the day, the riverbank has been reinforced with lots and lots of sandbags. And true, the rain comes, the flood rises, but thank you to the work of all those people, they've won. No flood. The village, happy ending, Hollywood movie in the making. Okay, perfect. And a week later, to celebrate, the mayor says, let's all get together, and he announces with great pride that we've collected a $10,000 reward for the work we accomplished here. And he hands the check to Mary. Look at your face. Look at your own faces, right? That's the point. That's crazy. Because Mary, yes, she put the last bag. She did. No one's taking that away from Mary. But if it hadn't been for all those other people, Mary wouldn't have had a bag to put there. So the reward should be shared among all the people who participate. Okay, Elon Musk, who participated in making Tesla automobiles or SpaceX or any of the other projects? Millions of people. All the people who developed the chemistry needed. All the people who developed what kind of metal you need to hold the chemistry to make the rocket work or to make the car go. He didn't invent the motor. He didn't invent the carburetor. He didn't invent the electric, none of it. He relied on other people. Some of them he employed, others worked in independent. The idea that he gets the reward at the end is lunacy. And let me add why it's stupid in my little parable to do it. Because the next time a flood threatens, all the other people in the village who are being asked to show up to handle sandbags, one to the other, will think twice because they have a resentment. They came, they spent the same hours working as part of the community to produce a good outcome, but they didn't get the reward. The reward, they'll all fight to be in Mary's position. They'll elbow Mary out of her place to be, it'll be ugly, it'll be disruptive, and it'll probably fail. And then they'll have a flood again. The whole point of an economic system that's interdependent is to reward the interdependent. Otherwise, you undercut it. Here's the irony. If you distributed the rewards to all, you'd be an incentive to all. Otherwise, what are people learning is you can work all your life and come up with nothing. And when they tell you work real hard, wait a minute. That's not the way this system works. And I have to tell them as a professional economist, that's right. This is a system. Let me put it the same story in a different way. Capitalism is a system that just did the following. It arranged to make the already richest person on earth much richer. All right, crazy. Stop the conversation. That's crazy. We know hundreds of millions of people who don't get the medical care they need to deal with diseases or injuries that we know how to treat. They don't get the food adequacy. We have a food security problem. We can't say hunger anymore, etc., etc. All of which could have been dealt with just the increase of his wealth, still leaving him as the richest man on earth. We could have solved all those problems. And then you have to ask two more questions. One, what kind of morality exists in the mind of a man who would do what I just said? That's the equivalent of gorging yourself on the greatest meal you could ever imagine, while 3 children without enough food are sitting on the other side of the table crying. How enjoyable can that meal be? What kind of and I don't hesitate to say it, what kind of a monster is this? And by extension, for the others too. Forget all the economics. Just as a human being, what is he going to do with another $200 billion? He already has airplanes and yachts and mansions. How many mansions can you go to the toilet in? I mean, it's silly.
You pee a little bit in each bathroom, I guess.
Exactly, and you have a golden one here and a platinum one. I mean, it becomes as ugly as that, and in the end, it's him. None of this is necessary. Now, last thing as an economist, if you are a trillionaire, you could, and he has this option, lend the $1 trillion to the United States. For example, this year, the United States deficit will be multiple, more than a trillion. So it's easy to lend your money if you have $1 trillion to the government. The government will then pay you, let's say, 4%. It's more than that, but let's say 4%. Okay, that's $40 billion a year. That means you're going to be earning almost $1 billion a week. $1 billion in a week. You can't spend it. There is no way. So all it's going to do is accumulate. And that's why he is who he is. He has been accumulating money on top of money on top. You know what you need to understand this? You have to go back to your childhood when you learned about a fairy tale called King Midas, that crazy king who wanted to everything he touched to turn to gold.
Mhm.
And then he touched his favorite daughter and she turned to gold. And she stopped being a human being and he learned his lesson that his touch of gold was the worst thing that could happen to him. We are in the process, and in order to scare your audience, but I don't mean to be an alarmist, but I got to do this. Moody's is a company that keeps track of the riskiness of investments. It's a huge American capitalist corporation, not a radical bone in its body. It last week issued its prediction for the likelihood of a major economic crash in the United States over the next year. Its percentage probability, 49%. You know what that is? A flip of a coin. That's what you and I call 50-50. That's what that is. And are they right? Who knows? Can we predict the future? No. Is it necessarily going to happen? No. Could it? You bet.
Hmm.
And I want to remind you, we are in very, very dangerous situation that this economy has never been.
Mm.
I went to all the elite schools in this country. I'm a graduate of Harvard, Stanford, and Yale. I'm like a joke. I'm a walking, credential carrier.
Also a traitor to them, I would say.
Yes, I do my best. I do my best. The more I can frustrate them, the happier I will always be. But I did learn then how to understand our economy. Every 4 to 7 years, we have an economic downturn. That's been the history of capitalism for centuries. We had a terrible one in 2000, the so-called dot-com crisis. We had another terrible one in 2008, the subprime mortgage crisis. Then we had another one in 2020. That was the pandemic crisis. Notice every 4 to 7 years, working out. So the last one, 2020, we're now in the year 2026. We're due. And if you add to the fact that we're due, the fact that we are in the process of losing the war with Iran, pretty much done now, we are in a competition with China that we are losing. And finally, we have a situation in which the inequality in our society, emblematized by Mr. Musk, is so extreme that we have to talk about half the American people being in trouble living paycheck to paycheck, while half a dozen people live in a level of wealth that is obscene. You put all these things together, and you can see why Moody's might in fact be right, and that we are therefore playing not only a dangerous game of roulette, of Russian roulette, but we've run out of cartridges, and the next one, dot, dot, dot. I want people to understand when you hear Trump and the others talk about the economy is great, you're talking about people who are so far disconnected from what's going on. And the Democrats, who should be beating the drum the other way aren't. They're mostly complicit, with a few exceptions. But nonetheless, we're talking about leadership that is no way in touch with any of this.
It's very true, and this was extremely clear when Musk himself was actually in charge of the quote Department of Government Efficiency. And so while he was becoming a trillionaire on the public dime, he cut over $1 billion from SNAP benefits, hitting school nutrition programs and food banks. The big beautiful bill then cut another 186 billion from SNAP through 2034, projected to impact over 40 million recipients. And Musk himself called entitlements the big one to eliminate. And so this is the clearest illustration of the relationship between extreme wealth accumulation and austerity. So how do we understand DOGE, or the Department of Government Efficiency, in the context of class war? And why do working people so often fail to see cuts to their own programs as theft?
Okay, first of all, the Department of Government Efficiency, it's so laughable that I have to kind of calm myself down in order to answer you in a proper way so that we can talk rationally. But it's like, a child who's upset about something runs up to you and sticks the ice cream cone in your shirt. You don't go crazy. You try to understand. This is bizarre. On the other hand, it's a little kid, and what do they understand about ice cream? All the rest. So here we go. Rich businessmen, and I really mean this, and I was born in America. I've lived and worked in the United States all my life. So rich businessmen tend to have complicated guilt feelings about who they are and how they live. They're very proud of it. Don't mistake it. They're very proud of it, but they are also guilty. It's not an either or. Mm. For example, if they go to church on Sunday, which some of them do, and it's not just pro forma, which for many it is also they are assuaging their guilt. They want to sit somewhere where a nice man or woman preaches from the pulpit about how we're all equal in God's eyes and so forth. They feel better because it's someone is talking to them like they were another person and not a rich person in the mansion up on the hill. They will go to the mansion on the hill the minute the sermon is over, but you get the picture. All right. Another thing they tell themselves is that there's no need for something they really resent, which is taxes. Because taxes carry within them the notion that you, as a businessman, have an obligation to the community of which you are a part. That's why we all pay taxes, because we use the schools and we use the roads and we want the air to be clean and et cetera, et cetera. And these are things we do collectively. They are frightened by that. Many of them can't tell you why they're frightened. I'll tell you. They're frightened because it negates, they realize that the taxes they can pay to support the community can be, probably should be, larger than those taken from one of their poor employees, because their poor employee has no money and they have loads of it. They don't want this. They don't like it. How do they handle it? They can't say, I don't want to pay. That's too gross. So here's what they want: a story to be told that the money their taxes go for is being wasted. And on that basis, they can talk to the working class. They can say, your taxes could be lowered too if we didn't waste this money. So join me in a program to get rid of what. They love that idea because it cleanses the horror It's no longer horrible, it's noble, it's cleaning. If you want to understand how Israelis understand what they're doing in Gaza, they don't get it, genocide. It is a genocide. For them, it is getting rid of Hamas, which kills us. Okay, now it doesn't sound so bad. It sounds downright noble. We're protecting our children from the terrible Hamas. Okay, but we try to explain to them, you are slaughtering children. Nazis thought they were protecting their children from Jews and gypsies. That doesn't justify what they did. You can't do it. But if you're caught up in it, if you need it badly enough, you get it. The Republican Party has been teaching Americans for a century that what the government does is wasteful or counterproductive. And your taxes, which you hate paying, are going for something which isn't good for you either. The Democratic Party came out of the Great Depression saying, we're the party that is going to help you. We're the government that's going to help you because your private capitalism took away your job, took away your livelihood. I want to remind you, in 1933, the unemployment rate was 25%. That's 6 times what it is today. Every family in America had unemployed people in it. So everybody understood the crisis. So the government was going to come in. And what did the government do in the 1930s? Created Social Security for the first time. It gave every American over 65 a check. Unemployment insurance never existed before in America either. First minimum wage we ever had, 1938, and a government jobs program that put 15 million Americans to work, gave them a job and a secure income. Look what the government can do. And the Democratic Party came out and was the party of Roosevelt that did those things. And they got the working class and they dominated American politics. And the business community and the conservatives went to work to dismantle all of that. You and I have lived our lives, me, my entire one, yours also, in the dismantling, the undoing of not only the New Deal, what they call the 1930s, but the Democratic Party. So it becomes a shell of itself. Half the working classes walked away from it. The people who dominate it now appeal to big donors. They hope to get it into the White House, back into power by appealing to Peter Thiel and those people. And
Well,
they may
Dr. Wolff,
well.
I'm glad. Dr. Wolff, I'm glad you mentioned Peter Thiel because as we start to wrap here, I really want to get to this. I want to get your take on this because it's so important, and it fits into everything you're talking about. As you mentioned, billionaire Peter Thiel. This man has a secret society called Dialog, which was exposed through a data leak. And this Dialog secret society has this upcoming retreat. I'm sure you've seen news reports about this. It's happening outside of Dublin, and it's featuring NATO's top U.S. commander, Trump administration officials, 6 members of the PayPal mafia. So this is actually a bipartisan group of people.
Yeah.
And sessions on the agenda include, quote, navigating World War III. Another one is called battlefield technologies. And another one, without irony, is called build a cult. So I raise this to ask you, what does this tell us that the ultra wealthy and their political servants feel this emboldened? What does it tell us about how emboldened they feel? The fact that they're meeting in secret to plan for war and workshop mass loyalty. And what does this tell us about our democracy or lack thereof?
Well, the first thing it tells us is the lack thereof. These people have long ago, they are not going to be held back by any democratic government, any democratic rule, any democratic principle. Let me remind you also, in case you didn't notice, Peter Thiel recently bought a mansion in Argentina where he has moved his family. Because if the excrement flies into the cooling equipment, he wants a place where he could. Other people in that group have been buying land in corners of Australia and New Zealand and so on, where they are building compounds to which they can retreat when the world collapses. Look, this mentality has always happened to the people who sit at the top of these absurd pyramids of wealth. They know, and believe me, they know it more than you and I do. They know that that level of wealth is a target. They they imagine, even worse than it is, that the mass of people are bitterly angry, envious, jealous, whatever words you want, about their situation. Now, they're not about to get rid of their situation to solve the problem, so they have to either escape or repress the mass of people. And that's what they're interested in doing. That's their goal. That's what's necessary to hold on to the wealth that they've accumulated. So, yeah, and they will explore anything. They hire some of the kookiest people you can imagine on the off chance that this crazy man has some idea. He has a chemical that'll make you become younger rather than older with the passage of time. They go for all of that. That's who their craziness, which they never understand, becomes worse the richer they are. It is the Midas touch in all of its ramifications. As to the mass of people, I wish it were up to us. We do the best we can. You do it on your show. I do it on mine. I do it in my writings. Our community is growing fast in America. I mean, here I am talking to you from Manhattan. My mayor is a Zoran Mamdani, right? I voted for him. He's the mayor. If we had all said a year ago, talking, there'll be a Muslim socialist mayor of New York, you and I, we would have all giggled that that's not going to happen. Here it is. Here it is. And I believe we may see a mayor of Washington, D.C. A young woman is about to become a socialist mayor there, too. The New York and Washington is like a joke. And it's all over I can tell you, my students, I've never seen anything like it. I didn't expect to live long enough to see in my classroom that if I say there is a section of this course in economics where I could teach you the Marxian approach as a oh yes, please. How many? 2 weeks? No, we want 4 weeks. And not one or two students. Most of them,
Wow.
they want to know. They don't know much, but they're honest about it. They want to learn, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to teach this sort of stuff. I've been a critic of capitalism all my life. Only now, instead of being on the edge of what's tolerable, I'm having the time of my life explaining, an immense version of "I told you so."
That's incredible.
Well, it's quite the juxtaposition, to have the first trillionaire ever at the same time as we have this surge in excitement for socialism and socialist politics. It actually makes sense for those two things to be occurring simultaneously.
I think
Dr.
so too.
Richard Wolff, thank you so much for joining us to break all this down. We so appreciate you. You're such a treasure, and we look forward to having you on again at some point soon.
Well, you just give me a call. I enjoy talking with you again anytime.
Amazing.